Hi, I'm Codie Elaine Oliver. I created the popular Black Love docu-series with my husband after seeing the lack of Black people in media and entertainment in happy, loving relationships. We were actually being told there was a Black marriage crisis. So I asked Black people who were married what it takes to make their marriage work. And after more than 200 interviews, I've heard it all. So buckle up and enjoy getting the full story directly from the couples themselves. This is Black Love, the Interviews. When Tommy and I sat down with Viola Davis and Julius Tennon in 2016, we were only a year and a half into our marriage and about 40 interviews in. We had learned a lot from several couples, but one of the things that stands out to me about this interview, one of the things I absolutely loved was Viola and Julius's first date and how Julius could have been perceived as off-putting in as very clear as he was with his interest in Viola. And it just struck me as interesting because often we are wrapped up in what we expect that first date to be like, you know, the who's playing hard to get and who's corny or whatever. And listen to how Viola talks about him calling her back-to-back times the night after their first date. That is really the beginning of such a beautiful relationship because of his transparency and his emotions. As with a lot of the interviews that we did for the first season of Black Love and beyond, you know, we're always looking for any insights and advice into how to make a marriage work. Viola and Julius's views on responsibility and working on yourself to see if you are the problem in your past relationships. Honestly, their whole outlook on what it takes to be committed in marriage is what makes their interview one I will always remember. Okay, enough of me. Let's get on to Viola and Julius.
LA, New York, Rhode Island, everywhere I went, I was like the lonely girl. I had no idea how to meet men. I had no idea how to keep them. I had no idea how to choose them. And it's like someone said, a friend of mine said, you know, if I were a dude, I would never step to you because you look like you could take care of yourself. I was just a lone wolf too. Just everything associated with having a life where you would be alone. I had all the elements in place. And so before I met Julius, I almost was getting to the place where I was okay with it, to tell you the truth. Not really okay, you know, if I were to really do soul searching at the time, I didn't really want to be alone, but I didn't know what else to do to not be alone except to fix myself and wait. Wait, that's it. I had been doing the work. I had been doing the emotional work. I wanted someone who loved me. I wanted someone who was emotionally available. I felt like with my previous relationships, no matter what other great qualities the man had, if he didn't have access to his emotions, everything else was a wash. So I wanted someone who was emotionally available. I wanted someone who loved God. Really loved God, because I wanted a man who felt accountable for his actions and had some awareness of it. And I felt like if he loved God and he really followed those principles was in therapy, that I felt like he would be more aware of what he was putting out there in the relationship. And I wanted someone who was nice. And then all the other things I prayed for, because there was a friend Joseph Edwards actually, who was about to get married. He was a friend of mine who said, pray for all the things that are really, really, really deep, and pray even for the frivolous things. So I decided to pray for the frivolous things. Even if all those things hadn't been on the checklist, I would have still been open to it, because I was open to the imperfection of perfection. For me, I was. But those were all the things that were on the list. And a Southern boy, I like country.
I'd already been married twice. And so I always liked the idea of being married. I mean, it's an honorable thing. But obviously, when things don't work, you have to let people go. You can't stop your life to try to make something work that's not gonna work. And so although I had been married, had 2 kids by my first wife, and then had no kids by my second wife, I really loved being married, but it just didn't work out. And sometimes people just try to make things work out that don't work out. And so, but because I wanted to do that, and I'm a believer and I love the Lord, I prayed too. And I didn't know I was going to meet Viola, but I had prayed that in this next incarnation of whoever this woman was going to be, that it would be somebody that would love God more than they would love themselves. Because then when you hold yourself accountable to God, then it changes the equation of everything, of what you're looking for and what expectations are, because you know what your expectations are, because what does God want for us? He wants the best. And so then you hold out for the best. I didn't know it was going to be Viola, but it ended up being her. I just think, I think some people get afraid when people are really transparent and upfront when you first meet them. But I've always been of the mind, this is the way we live our life now, with integrity and transparency. And so I always think you just need to say it like it is. And I think that any woman, and I think any woman is, when you're looking at a man who's a single guy who's raising his children, there's something about this guy. When you're making that sacrifice, when you realize, hey, I'm an artist, my journey wanted to be New York. I wanted to be on the stage and do all that stuff and get plucked out of New York. My kids became more important. So then I think that when Viola knew I had raised my kids and we talked about all that, it's just easy because I'm going to tell the truth. I'd just rather be in that spot. Attractive. I'd rather be in that spot than kind of dancing around it.
I was 34.
And I was 45. I tried to tell her I was 41 or something like that.
No, you said 46. I said 46. He just shaved 1 year off, and I knew he was.
She knew I was lying. She thought but I didn't necessarily want to do it. You always think, because I had an experience with dating another girl before the girl I was with when I was dating at the time I met her. And the girl was like, she was a nice girl. I was taking her on a date. Somebody had set us up. And then she was like, you're too old for me. I was 10 years older than her. And I was like, hey, look, I said, listen, we're just on a date. I said, it's not like we're trying to get married. So then after that, it kind of made me say, well, maybe I need to shave off a year.
So he shaved off a year.
So,
It didn't
maybe
matter
that
to
might
me.
help or whatever. Not really a total lie, a little high.
Yeah.
We were both in a line getting a sandwich. It was like Crafts was a break.
Bagel. With tuna fish.
I was getting a turkey sandwich or whatever. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I just overheard her talking to a girl in front of her saying, oh, I don't like LA. I don't know anybody here. She was kind of complaining. And I was kind of like, I was dating a girl who was a little bit of a monster. And I was kind of like, oh, wow, she seems like a nice lady. She doesn't know anybody. I'm kind of ready to meet somebody else. And so I said, like a good Southern boy, my mom always said, if a girl likes you, you give her your number, and if she calls you, she calls you. If she doesn't, it's nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? And so at the end of the day, I gave her my card.
And he had his shirt on.
So
that was a big deal. A lot of actors have their shirts off and their little.
My card, I had my shirt on. I gave her my card, and she called me a month later. Listen, after a week, you usually think if you give a girl your number and you think, hey, she's going to call me, and she doesn't call you for a month, you just kind of go, okay, well, I was just being a nice guy. I didn't really think anything of it, but I remembered when she called me a month later, I wasn't like, hey, what's happening, And she was going to a photo op because I was recurring on the show. She was a series regular. So I'd only done the pilot, and then I knew I was going to do episode 9. I didn't know what was going to happen beyond that because Mr. Bochco had said, we're thinking about expanding your role. We're not sure, whatever, but we're gonna bring you back. And I would imagine that if we hadn't met during that craft service thing, we might not have hooked up.
It was total fate because I hated Los Angeles. I was in therapy, and not therapy because I was completely damaged. I wanted to live a healthy life, so I said I'm gonna be this healthy woman. I'm gonna be different than what my parents were. I'm gonna be healthy inside so I can attract the right sort of man. And I prayed 3.5 weeks before when I was at a theater festival. I got down on my knees and I prayed for a black man, ex-football player from the South who had kids, who was older than me. And I met Julius. And when he gave me his card, I was thinking, he's really nice. He's good looking. There's something wrong. something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with him. And so I didn't call because I had bad credit. I was struggling with driving in LA. And finally, everyone said, you got to call him. I said, you know what? I'm going to call him. And after our first date, I always tell people, after my first date with Julius, my life got better. Every way. Anxiety went away. Fear went away. He just made my life better. There was nothing about Julius for me that felt like he was about swagger or about, he wasn't a Mac daddy. From our first date, I remember I was terrified because he told me exactly who he was. He was absolutely honest about his past. And then he brought me home and he just said, you are a very beautiful and nice woman, and it was a pleasure spending time with you. And he shook my hand. I remember you shook my hand. And then I went in the house. 20 minutes later, he called again.
Yep.
And I said, you got home already? He said, no, I'm at the Ralph's down the street. But I just wanted to tell you again what a great time I had and what a beautiful woman you are. And I said, oh, okay. 20 minutes later, he called again. I just want to tell you I got home and you are a beautiful woman. I'm about to go to sleep and I just wanted to tell you to have a good night. 4 o'clock in the morning, he called again because it was an earthquake and he wanted to know if I was okay. Right. And I just have never experienced that level of genuineness. It was cool from the very beginning. There was no issues from the very beginning.
Right.
It was kind of like a dream connection in a way. A dream connection that was very real. That's the thing with Julius. It was easy. It just was easy.
And then meeting the kids, and as far as they were concerned, I mean, these are people that are grown people.
They were grown by that point.
You know what I mean? And obviously, you want your kids to, be supportive of you in any relationship that you're in, but it's not contingent on what your kids think. So I don't think you should ever have yourself in a spot where you're worried about what your kids think. I mean, obviously, if they're younger, then you do need to talk to them. I think sometimes because they might feel like, God, you're marrying another guy, and what about daddy? And you have to go through that. But when they're grown, they're living a life. They have to understand, and of course, you want them to, like the woman you're with. You can't always count on that. But in this case, my kids were fine with Viola. And and this was before Viola was Viola. I mean, it's kind of like, that's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's like her career wasn't where it was. And it's just like we were two actors, whatever, and she had all this immense talent and all that. But, only God knows what's going to happen. And then as things happen, and as you put God first, then he sets the template for how things are going to work, And so that's what was great about it, is that they were just cool. Oh, it was
3.5 years.
Yep, 3.5 years. Because my whole thing was that I wasn't in debt, but I wanted to pay debt off. And so it's kind of like one of those things where you start, first we don't want to live together because, you're in church and you're going, oh God, we're living together and we're not married. And I was talking about it all the time. And she was like going, well, if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it, right? And so...
Now, see, I had bad credit when we met, so I was, I had a credit score of 500 and something, and that's why I didn't call him for a month. I was so nervous until I finally told him. I sat him down, I said, Julius, I got some news I've been keeping it from you. And he was like, oh, okay, what is it? And I said, Julius, I have bad credit. He said, I knew your black ass had bad credit from the moment I met you. But that's all right. I got good credit. We can use up my credit. That's okay.
And so it took a minute, and then, but that couldn't be an excuse. That couldn't be an excuse of, saying, because I'm in debt, I want to wait and all that. And that was just part of just kind of wanting to be out of debt. And as I had said earlier, I like the idea of being married. It's just that I just think it was just kind of like getting ready to do it again, and like not wanting to carry anything into the new marriage and all that. And then Viola was really thinking about, moving to New York. And then she said, well, will you move to New York? And I was telling her that I would. And she was thinking, oh, you don't want to live in New York. And I really was, because it's kind of like getting I was like in LA, I said, it's time to kind of do something different. And she didn't think I was, but I was. And, but it's one of those things where we just kind of...
New York is hard living.
I just kind of said, it's time to really make the commitment. And then I finally went on the knee and did it, and then we got married. That's how it happened. This woman would get married every week if she could. And I told her, I said, I'd be happy to provide a cardboard cutout. And
he loves it too.
I'll come down for the food.
The first wedding was 15 people at our condo. And then the second one was the big reception in Rhode Island with my family. And then the Bowery. I'm addicted to weddings. I might as well say. I mean, sometimes I try to sweep it under the rug, but I love it, everything about it. I mean, turning 50 was a milestone. And there always comes a time in your life where you always know something, but then you get to a point where you can articulate it. One of the things I understand about marriage is that it's the everyday. Mm-hmm. People don't always marry the everyday. They marry the kind of now, kind of wow. And then it gets to the every single day, the going to bed, the waking up, the taking the getting the groceries, taking out the garbage, and loving each other through that. And I remember telling a friend of mine who was about to get married, I said, your marriage doesn't start when you say, I do. Your marriage starts when you look over at your partner and you want to kill them. You're looking at them going, for seconds or sometimes minutes or longer, you're thinking, I cannot believe I married this human being. They are driving me crazy. And then the next minute you say, I love them more than anything and I'm sticking with it. That's the moment your marriage starts, when you understand all of the imperfections, when you even understand that it could end. If you mess it up, this could end at any minute. Mm-hmm. That it could be completely destroyed. One or the other can die. When all the romanticism has left it, but the love, truly what the love is, remains, when you understand that, for me anyway, you want to celebrate it. And for me, that's what the vow renewal was all about. And all of the poetry and the monologues, which were great. If you were there, you would see it and you would understand it, were basically spoke to that, spoke to real love and real commitment.
When you're married to someone, you support them. I mean, I'm big on supporting my wife. Whatever's gonna make her happy, that cliche, happy life, happy wife, happy life. That's true. And so you do go with it. But then you also have I'm at an age now where you understand that time is short. And so then you need to celebrate and you need to step into things while you can do them. So it was an opportunity for us to really share our love again and just allow our friends and everybody to be part and party to what's real, about being married. And that's about loving your partner, supporting your partner, no matter what. And so it was a great night. I mean, awesome. We got lost. I lost myself, and it was such a celebration. And everybody there was like, golly, man, this just felt so good. I've had several people say I've been to more lavish things, I've been to whatever, but the joy, not just our joy, but everybody's joy for us, and them being a part of that and seeing that was like,
because we have a 5-year-old.
Buy it.
And I'm about to be 51, and Julius is going to be 63 in December.
That's right. So
that time element that Julius talks about, let me tell you something, honey. That's what you think about all the time. When she's 20, how old am I going to be? Am I going to be around? Am I going to be healthy?
So then so then you enjoy life.
Oh,
you
yes.
just enjoy what you have.
Absolutely.
You know, God's created this incredible blessing in our life. And I always have to frame things because God precedes everything. My footsteps are ordered. When I walk in the door, God's already walked in. So when I come in, I become known. And that's the way we feel about our marriage. Our marriage is like, you know, it's God-filled. And so that we honor that, but nothing's perfect. It's not perfect, and we argue just like anybody else. But you know, I mean, you can agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, you gotta live tomorrow. You don't wanna live what happened yesterday tomorrow. So then, at the end of every day, if there needs to be reconciliation, there needs to be reconciliation.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So somebody's gotta say, I'm sorry. You gotta be able to say, I'm sorry. You gotta have, well, good listening skills, being able to say, I'm sorry. All those things are really important. And this little thing right here, will get you in trouble. Because you can always take back what you say, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be forgotten. Yeah. So you have to be careful of the things you say to your partner. Because they'll never be forgotten. You might think they are, but they're never forgotten. Yeah. And so then you have to pay attention to that. And, you know, and don't let the sun go down on your anger, right? We always resolve it. It may be 3 or 4 hours before we don't talk. A few doors get slammed here, there.
Never.
Okay.
Never.
And it's all good. You know, you might have to take a hike. You got to go somewhere. You come back, and then finally you come together.
Definitely, it's a learning curve, right? Being married, you know. And, I mean, he talks about, like, hours or whatever. We're pretty good. We don't last too long when we get mad. No. I don't think, but I do slam a couple of doors. But the gift of getting married, for me, once I did therapy and once I did the journey of being more self-aware of myself and what I put out there, is the understanding that marriage is a commitment. And people don't understand what commitment means. It's like our profession of acting. You see someone after 20 years going, oh, you know, I want to get out of it. You know, I'm rejected all the time and it's hard. And people say I'm not cute enough or I'm not this, and you get angry. It wears away at your spirit. But when you go through all of that, one of the things you have to remember is commitment is total. That means even with the hard times or whatever, the agreement that you made that you're going to stick with each other means that even when it gets hard, you almost die to yourself when you get married. You die to yourself. You die to, not that you don't have your own needs, but your needs have got to meet the needs of the whole. They do. That's the agreement. And so I understood that when I got married. That's what I understood. Actually, that was one of the sayings at our wedding. There is but one degree of commitment, total. That's it. He gives 100%, I give 100%, not 50-50.
Yeah, it's that give and take, you know, it's that give and take. You know, you have to agree to disagree and then move forward, you know what I mean? In love and understanding and, you know, I mean, it's a great thing. It's a great thing to really have a wonderful marriage, somebody who you can feel really, that you can confide in, and that doesn't mean you have to tell your mate everything about yourself.
Your mate can't handle everything. I don't ask him. If I don't want to know, I don't ask.
Hi, everyone. I know you're enjoying hearing from this couple, but I had to take a minute to answer a question we always get asked. Where can I watch the Black Love docu-series? Where can I watch Black Love shows like Couch Conversations, Doula Dads, Male vs. Man, Moms with Coffee? Well, Tommy and I created a solution. The Black Love Plus app is available to download now for free, thanks to our friends at Target, and it includes all your favorite Black Love content, including some of our live events that you might have missed. filmed for you and available now on Black Love Plus. You can download it wherever you get your apps, Apple TV, Roku, your Android, your iPhone. Just do it today. Download the Black Love Plus app.
Julius, when we first met and we had our first date, I lived all the way in Marina Del Rey. He was in
the valley.
In the valley.
Van Nuys.
And so we were going to spend the whole day together, just the day. So he had to come with his workout clothes, whatever clothes he was going to go out on a date with. And so he had a few different choices of clothes. And then he had his workout, and he had them all on a hanger, very neatly folded, everything with plastic over them. And he explained each particle of clothing and where he got them from and how much he loved them. And then after the longest monologue, he said, okay, so, yeah, that's it, you know? I said, so, you know what? Why don't you put those clothes in the big closet over there? Just hang them right in there in the big closet. You could, I said, as a matter of fact, you can take my clothes out of the big closet, put your clothes in that closet, and let's have the day together. And I knew it was magic from then on, you know, that I just stood there and I enjoyed the whole monologue. I thought it was fabulous that he loved his white jacket.
Whenever we share clips of Viola and Julius on our socials, the one thing that everyone comments on is how honest they've been with each other since the beginning of their relationship. And that was apparent when we sat down with them in 2016. So as we get on to the second part of the interview, take note of how understanding their own self-worth helped build their healthy, active relationship.
One area was adopting Genesis, because Julius, understandably, and I understand that even more now, he was done having kids. And I didn't know if I wanted to have, and then I had the baby urge. And by that point, I was in my 40s or whatever, and I wanted to adopt. And that was it was just a challenge.
More of a challenge than anything else.
A little.
But then, you know, it was one of those things where I said, obviously, we got to, you know, really think about this. We got to pray about it. And then, you know, me being the head of the household, then I have to pray about it, because I had been really transparent with her when we met. When we met at the, you know, at the beginning. And I was like, I really don't want kids. I already had kids. I got grandkids. I don't really want to have kids. But once she decided she wanted to have a baby, I mean, I wouldn't have thought I would have a baby now. But it's the greatest thing that's happened to both of us. And then I prayed about it and I said, you know what, you want to have a baby? You want to get a baby? Let's go get a baby. It wasn't hard. Listen, I was a single father for 17 years with 2 kids. I was a single guy with 2 kids, an actor, a probation officer. I mean, I already lived a life. I know what life is. So then getting a baby it's just like getting off the horse. You know how to ride it, but you hadn't ridden it in a while. So when this baby came, it was like, okay, I already got experience with babies. My babies were 3.5 and 1.5 when I took custody.
You'll see.
You know, so.
And me, I was like, she's not eating anything. She didn't have one bite of food for breakfast. And Joyce said, B, she'll eat when she wants to eat. She won't starve to death. I don't know, Julius, I don't know.
It was all those uncertainties for her, and those things for me were things that I already knew. So then once we got the baby, it was easy because I could help alleviate her fears about certain things, because I already done that. So then it makes me have a different appreciation for what women do, because I know the road because I did it. So guys can't tell me about what women do that it's easy. It ain't easy raising kids. You know, it's not. But you know, it didn't change our dynamic, I don't think. I mean, it was just like this person coming in the house. It was just
and that's not bull either. It really hasn't.
It didn't change our dynamic at all, really. You know, since I'd already had kids, Viola kind of, got used to the fact of being a mom and and I was always telling her, you're doing a great job, whatever, because sometimes she'd have, these doubts that, and I would be going, don't be worrying about that. That's a kid. And then over time, she was okay with things, and then, but it didn't really didn't affect our just day-to-day life, no more than knowing now we have the responsibility of this child. So now we got to get a nanny, we got to do this, we got to make sure of that. It's like those kinds of things. But in the house, Nothing really changed.
I'm about to be 51, he's about to be 63, so yeah, we go off. We have hotel dates where we go off, overnight. We do that when we're not tired.
But when you work so much too, and now, we have this production company and you're working, you're grinding, you have to give yourself the time. You have to find the time. You have to find the time.
And you have to redefine time.
That's right.
You really
when
do,
you get
even
busy,
if you have 10 minutes here.
That's right. I mean, you just have to take advantage of everything, that you can, free time that you can get so you can connect.
If one goes before the other, you know what I'm saying? If one gets sick and one's sick for a long time,
long-term
what are
care
your
insurance,
wishes?
it's
All of those
things.
conversations that people don't want to have even when they're single, and all of a sudden you have to have them with another human being, and what are their values when it comes to that, I could say what my biggest challenge is, but, that ebbs and flows.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I think, obviously having differences of opinions about certain things with me, sometimes, I tend to feel like, listen, I'm kind of very kind of...
ex-football player.
Yeah, but more than that, I'm not necessarily an expert, but I sometimes kind of like to want to do things a certain way, especially the way I like the house to be kept. I'm really organized. I'm really not OCDC, I would say, but, I'm kind of, a neat guy. And so I kind of like things to be a certain way. My wife doesn't necessarily care about that as much as I do. And so I'm always telling her when I met her, I remember the first time when I met her and I was in her bathroom, the caps were off of everything. Stuff was everywhere. And I was like, wait a minute. And I remember she came home to her apartment, and when she came back, the caps was on everything was
spotless.
neat. And then she was saying,
he scrubbed the tub.
She said, why did you do that? And I said, because this is what I do. I said, now listen. I said, don't worry about what I do. I said, this is what I do. So in our marriage, it's like now, because I'm that way, I tell my wife, if I say something about it and I'm doing it, you don't have to help me do that. So I think that's kind of a challenge. That's something we kind of go back and forth with, but I always relieve her of that on my part. And that's not like a major kind of thing, but but it is kind of me.
The hard part for me is my independence. I was very independent when I met Julius. I was the hardcore New Yorker, theater, going to public theater, with my backpack on, doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And that's always the hardest part when you get married. It's like, I like to disappear. Like go to a bookstore, get a little sushi dinner. I'm very much a lone wolf. That's been the hardest part.
And see, I'm much more gregarious, so I kind of like to.
Yeah,
I like to be around people. I like to talk. My wife is quieter, and I support her. I mean, she wouldn't be on one red carpet if she didn't have to. And the only reason I'm there, and people say, well, you always seem like you're just so relaxed, whatever. I'm going because I'm there in support of my wife. It's not about me, it's us together, but I'm there because I know she doesn't want to be. I can be more comfortable in that space than she can, but it's about her, but she's more comfortable because I'm there rubbing her back, going, it's okay, we're gonna get through this, let's be sober.
And here's the thing with me too. I don't try to control a lot of things. Like for instance, Julius is a clean freak, and I allow him to be the clean freak. You know why? Because I don't want to clean. I want it clean, so I said, let him do whatever he wants to do.
That's the way my mama raised me. What can I say?
I'll give
That's
that
what
up.
I do.
If he wants to make any decision about the household, I allow him to do it because I don't want to do it. I'd rather go to Burke Williams for the day, or I'd rather go out into the jacuzzi, so I allow him to do it because I look at the things that I actually really care about controlling, and those are not high on my list. So I let it go. And also because I understand it makes him happy. And when he's happy, it creates a whole different dynamic in our relationship. So it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. You know, some people don't want to do that because they can't press the fast forward button. It's like, I'm going to control it now. Well, it's not going to be a good outcome, but no, I want to control it now. I could press the fast forward button. He's very happy doing it, so I let him do it, especially when he starts raking the leaves and blowing the leaves outside, because I ain't doing that.
Well, you know, it's like all these things. Like when you're the head of the household, it becomes, you have your career, right? So you're doing that thing too, but you also have, you know, all of these other things when you're running a household, and you have employees, and you have accountants, and you have financial people, and you have, you know, all those things. And so then I always, because her schedule has always been what it's been, then I have to handle all that stuff. So it's not like it's easy for the guy either, you know, to handle those things. But you want to handle that so then there's no pressure. There's no pressure on her, and there's a little bit of pressure on me because I have to keep everything. But because I'm organized, I don't feel that much pressure, because I just get it done, because I know I have to get it done, but I have to do it. I have to tell these people, I have to talk to the pool guy, I got to talk with the guy who's cutting the yard, I got to talk to the woman who's taking care of the house, I got to tell my employees, this is what's going on, blah, 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 whatever. So then that way that frees her up. So it's, you know, it's the give and take. It's the things that she does, I allow her to do, and then she allows me to do the things that I do.
The realism of marriage always kicks in. And I feel like if my fantasy, what I imagine is that's what trips people up. Who's paying the bills? Or where's the money gonna come from? Or are you spending too much? Who are you going out with? Are you telling the truth? I don't know. All the things that you don't think about when you meet someone and your heart is palpitating. You know, and then it trips you up once you're in it. And
that's the thing too, and the thing like us, with us, the whole thing with money, we've never had a problem.
Ever. Not one.
My wife, I mean, because I know my wife, who she is in herself, and she knows who I am, and so we've never had a money issue, period.
Well, that's because when we first met, I had 99-cent sheets, and they were $1.99 pots, right? Because I got them at the dollar store, because I was a struggling actor in my apartment. Now, his apartment, nice. My apartment.
I've learned that I'm malleable. I can kind of get in where I fit in, and with my wife, because she's easy in terms of her personality and her heart and her spirit and all that. And it's really easy for me to love my wife, because she you know, she has so much faith and belief in me that I understand who I am. Sometimes people say, well, you're married to Viola, how does that feel? It doesn't feel like anything, because I know who I am. You have to know who you are, especially in our business, when you're with an actor or an actress who's elevated and all that, and that's not necessarily, you're not, you know, elevated in the same way, but actually you are. If you're a real mate, if you really know who you are, if you know what your value is. And so for me, you know, Viola's always supported me. I support her. So I've just learned that, you know, my wife is complete. You know, she's just a complete person, not any different from anybody else. And the greatest thing about Viola is that she's just regular. We live a regular life, and we could be out in the street, but we don't need to be in the street. It's not important. What's important is family. What's important is family and love, and, you know, and doing the work that we love to do, and, you know, providing opportunity, the things that we're moving forward with. And we're just looking at every day as as an adventure, because we're really in it. We're in a great time, so we're going to take advantage of that time and affect as many lives and as many people as we can in our world. Because you can't change the whole world, but you can change things where you sit, and that's where we are.
The greatest thing I learned about myself is exactly what I learned even with my child, is I am proud of my ability to love and my capacity to love. And I mean that in the truest definition of what love is. that I understand that loving through the hard times. I understand giving even when maybe someone can't give me anything back. I understand being patient. I understand all of those things. And you know what? One more thing. I remember seeing this on an episode of Golden Girls. And I can't believe I'm mentioning Golden Girls, where B. Arthur's character says, one of Betty White says, so what do you want in your next husband? And she said, I want someone to grow old with. And I thought, okay, well, of course you want someone. And she said, because Stan never wanted to grow old with me. And for some reason, it struck me much later that that's what most people don't want. They want the young, they want the cute. And as soon as you stay that way with your body, with your sensibility, it's all great. And then when you get older, you change. You change physically, you change emotionally, and a lot of people are not in it for the long haul. They're not in it for the changes. They're not in it for the health scares or, I don't know, the death. They're not in it for that. And I literally do want someone to grow old with. I do. I understand what all those elements are. I saw it with my mom and dad when she had to sit next to his deathbed. That's marriage. That's love. That's commitment. You telling somebody to go, you holding their hand, that's it. I was liberated from my New York experience. You have to realize I went to New York. I love New York. That's my city. But I came to New York from Central Falls, Rhode Island. Once I got to New York, one of the things I understood is I was trying to escape that provincial life. But in the midst of, bad boyfriends, wanting a home, wanting a life, I realized that that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted, not that I'm saying that my husband is provincial, but right. I wanted something secure. I wanted something tried and true and honest and real. That I didn't necessarily want it the caustic tongue and someone who's like, forget, a house with staircase and a lawn, I want something different, funky. I was liberated from that. I wanted the house. I wanted the white picket fence. I wanted the husband who loved me. I wanted country. I did.
And for me, listen, I just wanted to be with someone who, as I said earlier, loved God more than they love themselves. And somebody I could have a life with. That would be, listen, love's not easy. Marriage is not easy. It's work. But it's worthy work if you have the right attitude. Attitude is 90% of it. How you carry that, when things aren't going so well and that. So it's just been, I just wanted somebody who loved me and we could love each other and be together and be easy.
Remember when
it's
we
not
first
worth
met?
The drama.
When I said I want someone who loves me, you said, I love you. I want someone who's emotionally available, Julius. I'm emotionally available. I said, I want someone who really, really, really loves God. He said, I love God. And then I stood there and he stood there. And I said, okay, so can I drive your car today? And that was it. That was conversation. Well, I think that a greater part of the population does not rely on self-awareness as an active method in matchmaking. I think that's the last thing that we do is take responsibility for our lives. I mean, we live in a whole culture of entitlement, with no sense of responsibility. But I wasn't there. So a light bulb went off on my head, off in my head. I remember when I asked a very good friend of mine, I said, you know what? Why do I always meet really crazy men? Why? And she stared at me. She said, Viola, do you ever think it was you? And we both stared at each other. I was like, really? And that was it. I listened. I don't know how else to say that. I was fortunate that I woke up.
Yeah, because it could have been a situation, you know, oftentimes people who could possibly be soulmates or be something, you know, you could see something, but you just pass each other because either one or both aren't ready, or one person is ready when somebody else is not ready. So it's pretty rare when two people meet each other and then there's a connection that can be lasting. And that's what I felt we had. Once we really connected, it was something there between us that was just right, you know, felt good.
Well, I remember the first thing I started working on is, you know, I remember this therapist would say, I just want you to observe your life and to make revelations. And I thought, I'm not paying you for that. But it's true, when you become really awake and you start thinking about, really be cognizant as you're making interactions with people, and you're aware of when you feel insecure. You're aware of when you feel anxiety. Okay, what's happening when I'm feeling anxiety? What's happening when I'm feeling insecure? And then you say, okay, that happened. So why did you feel insecure about that? And then you associate it with maybe, I don't know, failing the 3rd grade spelling test and someone calling you a name and you never getting over that hurt. And you're like, that's what it is. It's not that person at all. It's because it's me, because I remember I associate with that 3rd grade spelling test. And then that is the journey of self-awareness. And that is the greatest gift I could give to Julius, that for me, so that I don't pile that stuff into our marriage and pile it onto him and pile it onto my kid.
Always listen to one another. Be able to agree to disagree, and don't let the sun go down on your anger.
That's a big one.
The sun can go down, but by the time morning, resolve what's happened the day before.
That's a big one.
And that way you don't have to carry yesterday into your today. Everything's forward, that's backwards. We're moving forward every moment. We just lost a moment, we're already forward. That's the way we have to think in our marriage and our relationships.
And one other thing, because a friend of mine said this at her wedding. One part of her vows was, she said, I'm promised to love you exactly how God made you. Do not try to change each other. Mm-hmm. And that's a part of listening. If someone says, this is what I want, you don't try to manipulate it because you don't like the sound of it. Mm-hmm. That's what they say, that's what they mean. Just be man enough and woman enough to take it.
You know, I mean, love is, marriage is a commitment. And that's the way you have to look at it. You have to look at marriage as a commitment.
And you don't get, like I said before, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. And whenever you're on automatic, like I said, then you're not in it. You are not in it. And my big thing is what I tell everyone too. When you see the imperfections of your spouse, that one thing you thought you'd never marry, that one thing that turns you off, that one thing may never change, ever. You still gonna love them? It's like my therapist said to me, what if nothing about you that you don't like, what if those things never change? Would you be okay? Could you still love yourself? And I said, yeah. So you can love your spouse through it too.
I think, you know, obviously it just seemed like this was a fate-filled thing. She had prayed, I had prayed. You don't know in the universe how things are going to work out. I went to, I went to a thing with Edwina. At the time I went to the prayer thing where there was going to be a guy who prophesied. And all of a sudden, you know, sometimes people in the universe, it seems like things just kind of happen. Soulmates, those things, you know, it feels like you've been somewhere before. And you kind of go, it seemed like I did this before. So yeah, there's something about this thing. I prayed, she had prayed, and we came together, and it seemed so easy the way it happened, and so kind of unlikely, but it felt right. You just know when it's right. And so from that standpoint, it just felt like And then we were easy with each other. It wasn't like it was a struggle. The differences were so different that it would make it kind of hard to get together. It wasn't like that. It was joyous. From the very beginning, we were very joyous to see each other. When we saw each other, we were just like always happy to see each other. At the beginning, you know, because there was something about her.
But you know, I do believe in soulmates because I prayed for Julius, and look, he was a football player from Texas, had kids, older, you know, all those things were true. But I do believe in the saying, the happily ever after comes after you've done the work. I don't believe that you need to coast on the fact that the universe was in alignment and the sun and the moon was doing that and God granted you your wish. I don't think, you know, it's like someone said, if you're married and you're sitting on the couch and you're just on automatic, then you're not in your marriage. So I know that it's something that I still have to contribute to, if that makes any sense. That, not that you're asking that, but I think that some people feel like if it's a soulmate, then, hey, they're right from the very beginning, you know, it's like going down a great hill, you know, on skis. No.
And then for me, there was something about discernment. There's something about sitting quiet. You know, when you have a relationship with God, then what it allows me is to be able to be accountable. It allows me to be able to sit quiet. So after I met her and it felt so right, over time, every day, I'd just sit and ruminate. I'd just think about her and how easy it felt. And then stuff started feeling good because it feels right. The connection is right. And so it just became easy. It just felt right. It felt
we
like
had
we
a
should
lot
be
of
together.
laughs.
And a lot of laughs. Because
Oh,
you know, that's the
man.
thing, and I'm sure you guys do too. That's everything. That's everything in any relationship. The more you laugh, the better. And we laugh all the time.
Tears
All
streaming
kinds
down.
of stuff.
Laughter.
It's crazy,
everything.
but laughter is one of the main keys. It's a lot of funny things in life, even some serious things are funny. Find the funny, right? You get married to somebody. You're singular, he's singular. You come together. And then there's two in one.
That's right.
And so then when you really, really get to that stage of where you understand that love's got to be intertwined, those hearts have to be intertwined. And that's what I loved about it, because my wife's going to say what she said. But for me, that's what it means. It's two people trying to be one, but still, you know, having your own individual personality, but having the same heart as you move forward in life.
And that's probably not politically correct, but I'm sorry, that's what life is all about. When my dad passed away, part of my heart passed away with him, and it's never coming back. I feel the same way about Julius. I feel the same way about my child. It's one heart. They are completely entwined in my spirit. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's about.
Yep.
At the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day.
End of the day.